A warm welcome to the show. Today we speak with Barbara Kasten, an American artist who returns to Poland with the exhibition Post-Abstraction here at the Zachęta Gallery in Warsaw. Hello and welcome, delighted to have you with us. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
So Barbara, let's start with these photos, which are in fact large-scale installations, right? Because your process is all analog. Could you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yes, I started by making photographs in the studio with analog film at a time when digital was becoming popular. But I like to feel the material and create the subject matter for my photographs or my artwork. And I think of sculpture the same as I think of the photograph, because I make what it is that I photograph. I don't select out of the world at large, as most photographers might do.
And is it why you describe yourself as a multimedia artist rather than a photographer?
Yes, I don't think of myself as a photographer because my process in making a photograph really comes from a painterly background that I have. And actually I have very little, if none, in the photography techniques. I never studied photography. I came to photography through my interest in light and shadows. And of course, that's the basis of what a photograph is. So the properties are there, but sometimes they don't manifest themselves in a photograph per se.
And can you tell us more about why this interplay between light and shadow is so very important?
Yes, I mean, you know, we see real things. The camera is meant to capture real things. But what I try to do is stretch that experience into an abstraction where you have to depend more on your own interpretation than on realizing only the identity of an object. I need this transition to a more personal expression. So that's where the abstraction seems to work for me the best, to do that.
And you first came to Poland in 1970s and you worked with Magdalena Abakanowicz. Can you tell us more about that time in your life?
Well, that was really an amazing experience that I had through the fellowship of Fulbright, which was the United States government. But it came after my graduate school, and I had already been in contact with Magdalena because I had invited her to participate in an exhibition I designed. And through that, she agreed to sponsor me in this program. When I got here, she didn't want me to work on her work or to work in her studio. She wanted to give me the opportunity to work on my own, and that's really was a great gift because I had the entire year with the facilities of the school in Poznań to create a body of work. And that's when I started the seated form chair pieces, figure chair pieces. I had already investigated some of that in California, where I came from, and found that I was interested in the body, but not in the realistic body, but more in the presence of a body. And I found, and I always relate to the chair, because it's, you know, it seems to kind of be molded together in a very natural way, but yet the pieces I made were an interpretation of that, using the tapestry techniques that Magdalena used. So I did gain that technique, but I took it in a totally different perspective than what she was actually doing at the time.
And when you go back to those days working with Abakanowicz, how do you recall her?
She was a very strong woman, and I really admired that she believed in herself. And I think that's a motto for me, and something that I took away thinking that and admiring in her. So it became easier for me to believe in myself when I could turn to see her being so successful in her stance about that.
Especially in Poland at that time, right?
Yeah, well, Poland at the time was so different than it is now, and it was also so different than my experience in California. So it was somewhat a social shock to come here in 1971, actually in 72, and see that it wasn't the same atmosphere as what I enjoyed in Los Angeles. And yet the people had this sense of perseverance and spirit that it was very energetic, and it was energized me too, working with the other people in the school and seeing their projects and such. It was a very interesting experience on many levels.
So why did you decide to come back to Poland at this time?
Well, through the gracious invitation of Agnieszka Pindera, because I'm sorry if I murdered her first name, I call her Aga. So she invited me, and it reconnected me to my experiences, and also gave me the opportunity to come back, which I don't know that I could have done or would have done on my own. But so it was really her inspiration and her invitation that brought me back through another project that we had done together in the 80s through the Museum Sztuki exchange program.
You typically work with modernist or in modernist buildings, and Zachęta is special because it is an older historical building. So has it been a challenge?
It's always a challenge to relate to the new environment that I'm in. And Zachęta is you know, historically significant, beautiful, and it represents the past both in the culture and in architecture. And what I tried to bring to it was some of my own feelings about architecture and modern art, actually. The 20s and the 30s were a time of very creative art making, and I was impressed by the Bauhaus and Moholy-Nagy and that constructivist kind of work. So to bring that and have a dialogue between the history of Polish art, and especially Zacheta, and modernism, and then bring it even another place forward to contemporary. And that's what I hope the installation does, is that it gives you an opportunity to look backward in time and forward to the future.
And you've mentioned Bauhaus. That's another thread, so to speak, that we can trace in your works throughout the years. Why this particular aesthetic?
Well, the Bauhaus was a moment of experimentation. It was a moment of change from the old master school, and it was more art of the people, because what they tried to do was bring art into the home and into everyday life. And that aspect of art, I think, is really important for all of us to maintain, because, as you know, it's the first thing that's taken away in governments that are oppressive. They don't want you to think for yourself. And abstraction came from modernism and the Bauhaus. It's kind of a lineage. And so I felt like communicating via abstraction, via the Bauhaus, would be something that I wanted to present to the audience, so they could open their minds to their own feelings and judgments and be strong in their own beliefs.
And looking at this particular exhibition, what feelings you were hoping or aiming to evoke in the viewers, in the audiences?
I think basically the idea that you can look at an image and it doesn't have to be explained to you, It can be something that you rely on from your own past, your own experiences, your own emotional status. But there are always clues to something real in the image simply because they're photographs. But the interpretation is more, relies more on the audience.
But why is architecture so important in your works? Because we can clearly see the analogies,
Well,
right?
because I'm a human being and I really want to be able to express myself. And I am fortunate to have lived so long to be able to do that and share it. So it's more a moment of sharing than it is of telling someone what they should know or what they should believe.
So, Barbara, what are you currently working on?
Well, I just finished this piece yesterday, so
Okay.
that's my most current work, and I'm sure that the next opportunities, which will be, I have another exhibition scheduled in the United States that will offer similar opportunities, and then I've been invited by the Joseph Albers Museum to do some work in Germany. And that, of course, is really another hero of mine, along with Magdalena and others from that time period. So things will happen that I can't even tell you what until I get in there and start making it. Questions are the main drive, to find out what something can do, how it does what it does, and how I can make it kind of do something it's not meant to do, and still maintain its quality and presence.
Barbara, you've already hinted at this, but could you tell us who were the biggest influences on your work?
Well, yeah, I have to say the entire massive group of people who worked in constructivism and structuralism and the time of translation into geometry. Geometry was always a big favorite of mine in high school even. And so that precision is part of what I use from a geometric standpoint. So I think that people like Albers represent that. Moholy definitely does. And then there's a whole group of women, Russian avant-garde women who were fantastic painters and never got the acknowledgement until maybe late in the 80s, and now even more. I could name a lot of names, but I don't know that I can single any particular one out. If you notice, I'm talking about painters, not photographers, because I don't look at photography, except for Moholy, who does everything, who did everything. I like the time period now, excuse me, where people have the freedom to switch from one medium to another and to put them all together if they choose to. So, people of that ilk, I mean, there's so many, I can't even begin to name them.
Barbara Kasten, thank you so very much for joining us and for shedding more light on your works. Much appreciated.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching Pulse of Culture. Please tune in for more here on TVP World.